Michelle Brown.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and thank you for your statement, Cabinet Secretary. I welcome the parity that you've announced between part-time and full-time students and between undergraduates and postgraduate students. And I'd like to add my own thanks to those of the Cabinet Secretary, to the National Union of Students, for fighting the good fight for part-time and postgrad students for so long. I also welcome the proposal that doctoral studies should be supported. However, I fail to see how offering £1,000 per student, regardless of income, is a positive step forward. The Cabinet Secretary may say that we may be talking a relatively small amount of money here, but that money could be spent elsewhere in the education system, such as making essential repairs to a rural school. Welsh Government's constantly complaining that they're not given sufficient funds, but yet you can find the cash to give this handout to students from families on higher incomes. Whilst I am not necessarily against the principle of a student loan system, I'm wary of saddling Welsh students with debt at the beginning of their careers. Graduates are now facing debt at the same level as my first mortgage was. Is this really what we want for Welsh students? I would welcome the Cabinet Secretary's explanation of how she is ensuring that students and graduates receive a quality career service that will help them make the best decisions about which course to study and how much debt to incur. At the end of the day, these people are going to be saddled with an amount of debt. We need to make sure that they understand the level of debt, how long that's going to take them to pay off, and that that's actually a proper and worthy investment into their future before they actually incur the debt. Without a quality careers advice, we risk Welsh students incurring debt for no good reason, as I said. I do believe the Cabinet Secretary has missed the opportunity to incentivise students to study those subjects such as science and engineering, which are desperately needed in our economy, by providing free tuition and means-tested grants for those subjects. I'm also concerned about the potential inflation of student costs which could be caused in terms of rent, etc., as landlords and others cotton on to the fact that students have access to loans and potentially more money. We saw it happen when student loans were introduced in the 1990s. Rent for student accommodation rocketed for a start. And so what is the Cabinet Secretary's assessment on inflation of costs for students due to the measures announced today? Thank you.
Presiding Officer, can I thank Michelle for her question? I believe higher education is a joint endeavour. One where the individual benefits, but also we as a society benefit too. And that's why the universal grant of £1,000, which was recommended by Diamond in his independent review, will be taken forward. This government believes in the principle of universalism within that progressive system, and that's why we will fulfil the recommendation by Diamond. It's incongruous for the member to argue on one hand that the £1,000 should not be paid, but on the other hand then talk about the issue around student debt and tuition loan. What we do know is abolishing tuition loans and not supporting individual student upfront costs benefits the middle classes and the better off more. Yeah. So you can't have it both ways. The member is correct, though, and I should have answered this, I should have addressed this in answer to Llŷr Griffiths, and I apologise for not doing so here, about the issue around interest rates. I am concerned about interest rates and how they are applied to student loans. And as a result of that concern, I have written to the UK Government on that issue, expressed my support for a review of the interest rates and to keep rates as low as possible. And I have made it clear to Joe Johnson, the Minister in the Westminster Government, that we need to work collectively together on this particular issue. So I'm not forgetting about this point. This is an important point, and we are taking action to try and address this at the UK level. The member is also right to talk about careers advice. And I would urge everybody thinking about applying to university to look at the latest LEO survey. The LEO survey will tell you what the likelihood is of what you've studied leading to a job and the rates of pay that you would get. It makes very interesting reading. And if you do so, I suspect that we will see a rush of students applying for the computer science course in Swansea, because that course leads to high levels of employment with very good levels of wage. So you're right, we do need to make sure that students are getting proper careers advice before they make an application to a university, and teachers. Teachers who are advising them need to be aware of the plethora of information that there is out there for students to help them make those choices. Because undertaking a degree course is not to be taken lightly. It's something that really does need some proper consideration, and looking at the prospects at the end is an important factor to consider. With regards of subject-specific support, I understand that as UKIP policy, Diamond looked at subject-specific support rather than a universal system, and he came down on the side of a universal system and rejected the proposals for subject-specific support.
Diolch i'r